Hello and welcome to another episode of Vibrant Legacy Wellness Podcast. And we are on part two of Friends in Real Life with Ashley. So you all know if you've seen me before, I do a segment called Friends in Real Life. If you haven't seen it before, normally I just speak to people that I know in real life, but this is Ashley's second show. We decided to do a two-parter. And so for everyone that checked into the first one, say hello to Ashley. If you didn't see the first one, it will be linked below in the show notes. And let me just give my introduction to Ashley. Ashley is a serial entrepreneur, a social worker, an author, a food critic. Check out her page for the food critic. Oh my goodness, amazing. And a mother. And she has a book coming out in October, around October this year. That will also be linked in the show notes once it updates. As for now, we'll just talk about it. And Ashley, tell us a little bit about yourself before we get started.
All right. Thank you so much for having me back. This is such an honor for me. I love to be able to be a part of something so big and so positive, and this is the perfect platform for that. So, again, my name's Ashley. I am a lot of things. I'm a mother first. I am a serial entrepreneur, multiple successful businesses, all geared around motivating and encouraging people. A food critic. I love to eat. I love to try new things, whether it's healthy and unhealthy. I love that thing and I will be trying it. And I'm also an author. I write books as well as blogs and different self-help things to help my people.
And tell us a little bit about your book before we jump into the show.
Yes, so my book is called The Queen's Handbook. It is an affirmations book. It is a wellness book. It is meant to encourage and inspire women. And it's meant to give daily tips and tools on how to navigate through life, whether you're dealing with self esteem issues, confidence issues, or just trying to figure out how to be the best woman that you can be. Those tips will be found in that book. So that's why I wrote that book, is because I want us to be our best selves. And that's what that book is about. That's the synopsis.
And then you're going to follow it up with when.
A King's edition. There will be a male's edition for my men because it is so much out here that I have to teach and that I want to give out to the world. And it's for my men too.
Thank you very much. So today, Ashley and I are going to talk about spiritual trauma. Again, if you missed the first episode, go back. We are talking about two different things. So if you missed the first episode, you can still listen to this and you didn't miss anything that is related to this episode. But today we're just going to talk about spirituality and just like living outside of that spiritual box and just spiritual trauma. This is something Ashley and I talk about a lot. We've had a lot of spiritual experiences together, which sounds really funny, but I feel like when people are in your life for a long time, you kind of go through these spiritual growths together. And I would say the time in our lives when Ashley and I met, we were in an environment where we were spiritually boxed in.
Yes.
And for anyone who's following me for a while, you know that I grew up in a very spiritual free, we explore spirituality type of environment. My parents were very much so and still are. They believe that everybody's spiritual path is different. I can give you the tools, I can teach you, but you have to find your own path because whatever path you're going down, whatever spiritual path you're led to, that's where you're supposed to be. And Ashley and I were in an environment where we had very strict rules where these are the rules you have to follow. And that was really new for me. And I feel like, Ashley, just tell us a little bit about how you feel about that.
Oh my gosh. When I say my spiritual path has been the most challenging yet rewarding journey that I've been on, I truly mean that. I've been through so many battles spiritually that it's no joke, actually. I felt things such as shame, embarrassment, not feeling good enough, feeling inadequate. And that has all been in relation to feeling spiritually in a box. Growing up, we grew up, well, not Catholic, Christian and Baptist. So in that household, we grew up under that household. And so when I became an adult, I realized it's so much bigger than that. It's so much bigger. It's so much deeper, really. And it's so much out here that we were not taught or we were taught incorrectly, and it caused a lot of like damage for me that I'm currently undoing and working on undoing.
I
So
think one of the big things, and you and I also, this is something that we were talking about before the show, is the idea of spirituality and religion. And sometimes people want to put that all in one box and they don't see the difference. And if you're spiritual, you're wrong because you're not following a specific path. Or if you're not following my spiritual belief the way I want you to, AKA my religion, then your path is wrong. And I feel like that's something as you start to move away from that, especially for those people, for those working in the spiritual entrepreneurship, I feel like that's one of those things. Like when you kind of step out of, as they say, when are you going to step out of the spiritual broom closet, you know, or the spiritual closet, or whatever you want to call it, and really step into your spiritual path? And I think that's one of the hardest parts is just stepping into your spiritual path and not being afraid of the criticism, the ridicule, the judgment that you're going to get.
yes, I agree. I agree.
Do you feel like that's something that you still struggle with, or do you feel like that's something that you're working on? Do you feel like I'm there, I'm good?
Oh no, I'm not there. I actually have a therapist. We are working through that through therapy because I went through a lot spiritually that I just didn't know how to handle. I went through a lot of things as far as like the guilt aspect of religion. I've been um through different aspects such as like witchcraft. I've dealt with different things happening to me. I've dealt with feeling like I'm not good enough to label myself in a religion. And currently I won't say that I've denounced my religion because that's probably not the right wording, but I don't label myself anymore. For the last like 2 years, I have not labeled myself with a religion or anything like that. I just keep my relationship with God. I keep it personal with me. I'm constantly figuring out ways to develop a higher, a closer relationship with God and figuring out what God means to me versus what I was taught and what was given to me and what was almost forced on me. You know what I'm saying? We never got the opportunity to really learn about different areas of spirituality. We only learn one thing. And as we know, it's so much bigger than just that one thing. So to answer your question, I am still learning and still growing spiritually. I wouldn't say that I'm struggling because I'm not in a place of where I feel so much guilt anymore. I've worked through that through therapy and through affirmations and through just learning myself and forgiving myself and realizing that I'm not a perfect person and that I'm not expected to be perfect. But it's still a journey. Like I still struggle some days. Some days I still feel like, well, what if I'm disappointing God? And what if I'm not good enough for God? And what if I won't get into heaven? I still go through those thoughts. And I just take it one moment at a time. That's what I said in the last video. Make sure y'all watch. Take it one moment at a time in your spiritual life and your journey with your religion of your choice. Like, take it one moment at a time. And remember, use your own mind. Don't use your mind of your family, your friends, and what you grew up around. Everybody has different opinions, and your opinion is just as important.
And do you think labels are so important?
No, oh my
Like the
gosh,
spiritual
labels hinder.
labels?
They hinder you. Oh my gosh. At least for me. At least for me speaking. Sorry, that's my baby.
That's okay. She was just saying yes.
Yes. It when I say like it hinders you because you're under a religious, it's almost like you're in a box and somebody taping that box. And now you just stuck. You just stuck in this one little box and you're trying to figure out like how can I branch past this box when I'm taped in because you didn't tape yourself in with another religion or a title. That's not my life anymore. I can't live like that. If I'm such a free spirit, I can't live in a box. It may work for other people, and I'm not mad at that. If it worked for you, then honey, be the best you that you can be. But for me, it does not work for me. And I feel like sometimes labels can hinder you or it can help grow you. It just depends on the person.
Agreed. And I think this goes back to how I said when we first met, I wasn't used to having a label. I just was used to
Yes,
saying, oh, I'm spiritual. But we were in, I don't want to say too much beyond like, where we were or whatever, but we were in an environment where they expected a label. And I remember that you were very supportive of the fact that I was like, I don't have a label. I just call myself spiritual. And they were like, what? What is that? That's
I
not a thing.
remember you doing that. This was so many years ago, but I remember you being such a free spirit and you having your own mindset, and it actually motivated me. It
Do you
really did.
remember how upset people used to get when I say that? Because I would like tell them,
Oh,
I would look at
girl,
them. First, it would just be me trying to ponder, how do I answer this question in a way that they'll understand? And I finally just got to the point where I'm like, okay, well, that's your opinion.
girl, you
That's
ruffled
just
their
it.
feathers, okay?
And it was just really hard because my mom grew up Catholic. My dad
Right?
grew up in the church, in the Southern church. But even with that, my parents very much allowed us the religious and spiritual freedom. And even though they both grew up that way, I don't recall a time where my parents ever forced a label on us. They let us do whatever we wanted to do. They're like, cool. One of my brothers went through an entire year where he decided he was going to study Buddhism because he wasn't sure if he was going to do that or not. And my mom was like, cool, where do I need to take you? And everyone was like, you're
I
just
love
letting your
that.
son study Buddhism? And my dad would,
Yes,
and even with my dad, people were pushing back. My dad and my mom were like, listen, if that's the path that he is supposed to be on, we can't tell him that's not where he's supposed to be.
I'm telling you.
That's where God wants him. That's where God wants him. And my
Yes.
parents were very much so like that. So I can honestly say when Ashley met me, how many times did someone call me a hippie? Because I was just like,
She just was carefree, y'all. Like, and she still is. And it is working out for her good. Hear me now, okay? It's working out for her good. It is so much better to be free than to be conformed. Maybe
but
I'm
I will
rebellious. I
say that again.
said, maybe I'm rebellious. Call me what you
That's what I was
want.
gonna say. I got that a lot. And even now, sometimes I am very much so confident in my spiritual beliefs, right? But I would say even sometimes now I don't really say it. And it's funny
I
because
know.
in the business side, I work with spiritual entrepreneurs, right? That's part of my
Right?
business that I work exclusively with them. Like I have two business ventures where that's all I work with. I only work with spiritual entrepreneurs or wellness people, but I work with one of my businesses. I exclusively work with spiritual entrepreneurs only. And it's so funny because when I'm not in that space, I'm very careful because sometimes, and I catch myself being careful, and then I have to remind myself, why are you censoring yourself? And for me, it's about censoring myself because I know how people are. And I don't want people to
Talk it.
think that I feel like if you say you're religious, people don't they don't equate that with your professionalism. But if you're spiritual, they it almost it almost diminishes your professionalism
Oh my
in a
gosh.
way.
So they think you crazy as hell. Like, we
Yes,
not
but
crazy.
no. And for a while, even when I first started my business, I would say I did that a lot. But when I finally stopped doing that and I stopped censoring myself and I really leaned into it, I can say I saw the difference in the flow in clients. I wasn't
Oh
getting
yeah.
clients that weren't, I was getting a lot of clients when I was censoring myself that weren't aligned with me.
Oh
Right.
my
But
God.
when I stopped censoring, changed all of that. And I think that's the biggest thing for me is being in the it's not being in the box, it's putting myself in the box that I
Hmm.
know I don't fit in because I already know I don't fit in it. I've already stepped in that box and I said, nope, this is not for me. And I stepped out. But then I put myself sometimes back in that box and then I just get mad. Then I'm just mad all day or,
Yes.
until I step back out because I know this is not where I'm supposed to be.
Yes. You are literally speaking my life.
Um, and also just like that trauma. And it's so funny because not funny, haha, of course, but just so funny because I hear people talk about the spiritual trauma, and I realize that we all have spiritual trauma. And granted, my spiritual trauma isn't the same because we weren't in that setting where we didn't have that spiritual freedom. But I
Mhm.
realized that I also have spiritual trauma just from judgment. And it's really funny because my dad's side of the family, a lot of people are in spiritual work, but they are like pastors and things like that. And even when I look at that, they're so open about they're like, oh well, you know how she is. Like they don't make any judgments about it. And I think for me, because they're all pastors, because well, not all of them, there's a large amount of pastors, there's a large amount of, people that are in that realm, that when I got into an environment where I was meeting other people with similar like jobs and similar positions, I was so taken aback. I couldn't believe that I was being judged, I was being ridiculed because my family doesn't do that. They're like, you got to be who you're going to be, even though I don't agree with that. That's not my belief. That's your belief. And you follow it and you follow it fully, lean into that fully. And so getting put in that box where I was told, you can't lean into that. It was so shocking to me. And I
Yes.
didn't know how to handle it. And that's kind of where we were when we met. I didn't, like, I kind of struggled at first because I didn't understand how to handle it because people weren't open minded.
I know, and it's not your fault. That's not your fault.
That's actually a good point. The trauma is that's something I think we need to talk more about is it's not your fault. That trauma is it's just not, it's
A
just
lot of
there.
it's generational too.
Hmm.
A lot of it is from generations. Your great 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 grandmas or great 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 grandfathers. That's what they knew. And so when they're forcing it on you, it's not because they're trying to like force you to do one thing. It's because that's what they know. A lot of our former generations are afraid to step out on anything different because that's what they've been taught. That's what they know. Us, our generation, we were made and created to do something different. I really
Yes.
believe that. I really believe that. And that's
And I
why so many
think
of us are oh sorry, go ahead.
no, no, go ahead.
Are stepping away from like religion. Not because we don't love God, because we do. I know I do. I love God. But it's just like the way that we were taught, we realizing that it doesn't either it doesn't align with our lifestyle or B, it was not right.
Like
So
sometimes you see and don't get me wrong, like we're not bashing any religions because I feel
never.
like again, we both I think we both can agree that we feel like you're on the path you're meant to be on. But I just
Hmm.
feel like so many things, and I think that this goes back to culture. I feel like so many things were lost in the message, right? Lost
Yeah.
in I know I'm going to get kicked back from this, but I'm going to say it. I think so many things were lost in colonization, right? So
It
much heritage,
was.
so much culture. And
Yes.
I feel like many modern day religions, at least Western culture, a lot of that colonization seeped into the religion. So some of that religion was lost. Some of the original interpretations of the text were lost, and the teachings were lost because you have to think when you have religion, when you have formal religion, when you have formal anything, it's written for the time that you're in and the people that are in the time that you are in.
Mhm.
So, of course, they have to make it work so that people can understand it, people can follow it. And in that process, things get lost in interpretation. I would
Mhm.
challenge anyone to take whatever type of religion that they are, whatever religious background they have. I would encourage you to take an actual history class of the religion that you study. And I think you would be shocked just by the actual history itself, I think will shock you because I think you would find that what you thought you knew is not even what you know or should know.
Remotely close. Like, oh my gosh, remotely close to what we learned.
Hmm.
It's not even close. And that's the
And
scary
it
part.
exactly. And the people that are in power in these positions, they know the history,
Hmm.
but they're still teaching the mainstream message.
Yes. Gatekeeping. Gatekeeping. And
Hmm.
a lot of us, it literally says this. We perish for lack of knowledge, and it's true. It's true. The less we know, the worse off we are. That's
I
just
will
all it
tell
comes
you,
down to.
very true. And I will tell you, I was taking this. So you, everyone, if you don't know, I love to study religions and spirituality from different places. And I took this class, and I will never forget. It was the first time that I met someone who was Sikh, or is it called Sikh? Do you call it? I think that's correct. I apologize. Please correct me if I say it incorrectly, but he was Sikh. And he said something so profound that it sent me on a like 6 month journey of research. He said that he was a Christian and he walked away from Christianity and he became Sikh because he, in his studies, he learned something that blew his mind. And he said that he learned how similar religions were and where he said, if you follow the very beginning of all of these texts, he named a couple of them. I'm not going to go into too much detail of what he said,
Yeah, of
but
course.
but as he was studying, he said that he realized that there was three main ones, and Sikh was one of them, where everything mirrors. It's all the same. It's just that it kind of breaks. There's a certain point. He was like, and this was the point where all three of the religions broke off, and the story wasn't the same. He was like, but everything before that was the same. And he was like, I was so completely mind blown that I started studying. And he said that's what led him to become a Sikh, because as he
Uh-huh.
started researching, he realized that what he thought he knew wasn't what he knew, and what he learned led him on a different path. And he is literally the only person in his family that is not a Christian.
I know
And
that.
he
So
talks
is it
about it
hard
all
for
the
him?
time. He said it was really hard for him, but
Yeah.
he's so confident in his beliefs that it made me like, I just wanted to know. I was like, wait, now I'm curious. And what made it even better is that it was a Christian history class, or a Christian class, Christian history type class. And when he said this, and I saw the person, the instructor, agree with him, she was like, absolutely, that's correct. And then my mind was really blown. And so it led me down this journey of, I want to say that's probably the point when I really started deep diving and studying different religions, because I was so shocked. And then as I study different religions and I get more exposure to different spiritualities, I notice that there are themes across all spiritual paths that are the similar or the same. The stories are the
Mhm.
same, the messages are the same. So why are we fighting? Why are we arguing? Why are we pushing
Killing
things?
each
Why are we
other.
putting it in the box, you know?
Hmm. I agree.
It's just mind blowing. But
Yes.
I know earlier we were talking and you were talking about some of the different types of trauma, like spiritual trauma. And I just want you to talk about that a little more, because I was really intrigued.
Yeah. So that's outside of dealing with mental ailments in my life, the spiritual trauma, that has been the second worst thing that I think I've had to deal with in my life. Um, every day I would wake up feeling guilty, feeling like I was not good enough, like I was not going to be accepted into heaven, like my sins were too great, um, that the things that my lifestyle was wrong, I'm living wrong because I'm just having premarital sex, smoking weed here and there, drinking, whatever the case. It felt so heavy at the time. And it felt like every time I did those things I just listed, like I was gonna burn in hell. Like I felt like I was just going to literally burn in hell. Like I was not gonna be accepted or loved by God. Like he was gonna turn his back on me. Like that's how I felt every day, day in, day out. It was heavy. Like it was such a heavy point in my life. And I felt that for years. Majority of my 20s, actually. Majority of my 20s, I felt heavy guilt to the point where I didn't even lose my virginity until I was 24 because I was so afraid that I was going to burn in hell because of of that religious trauma that was like so buried into me. And people don't know this about me, but I struggled a lot in spiritual trauma. Um like every sin that I did was just gonna just banish me. And so that was a huge reason why I felt the need to step away from religion because that's unnatural. It's not natural to walk around feeling like that every day. Feeling like, okay, one wrong move and it's gonna send me to hell. That's not okay. And I'm not telling people what to do or how to live, but I know that I could not live like that, feeling guilty every time I turn around, every sin I make. That's just not right, and that's not of God to me. I don't feel like that's of God to feel such a heavy trauma, and that's what I felt for years.
Do you feel like you are in the process of coming out of that trauma and embracing something else, or do you feel like you've already moved past it?
Coming out, I'm still dealing with that through therapy. Like that's not something that I could just wash away because it's been years of programming, of self programming. Like, okay, you okay, Gia? Okay. Clowning right now. Can you ask the question one more time?
Do you feel like you're out of it, or do you feel like you're coming out of it,
Coming
the
out of it,
trauma?
yes, that's where I was. Coming out of it for sure. I have to go through therapy. I have to talk about it, and I have to make sure that I'm giving myself grace. That's one thing that I didn't give myself throughout my 20s and throughout my journey with spiritual trauma. I never gave myself grace enough to say, like, Ashley, like, you tripping. You are good enough. You're not going to burn in hell. But that's something that I didn't know. Like, I walked around with my head held down. Literally, my posture wasn't straightened because I felt so guilt ridden all the time. So that's something that I cannot cure overnight. So, yes, I am still working on that every day, but I just don't feel as guilty as I used to. Once I abandoned the label, I stopped feeling so heavy all the time.
And do you think that spirituality is like a necessity of life, like a necessary part of your wellness journey?
I do, for sure. Um, Maybe people may think I'm brainwashed still, and that's fine. Um, but I feel like I just love God. I feel like I'm less I'm not myself if I don't have like God in my life or if I'm not in communication with my higher power, my God. You know what I'm saying? That's how I feel and I strongly believe in that. And I think also spirituality is bigger than just having like a god or multiple gods or whatever somebody believes in. It's so much bigger than that. Like it's about what you make it for starters. But I definitely think if you're going to be in the wellness field, if you're going to preach wellness and be about wellness, you have to have a spirituality a part of it. I can't see how you can have one without the other.
I agree. And I also think it's really important to note that when we say God, right? Because this is something you and I spoke about beforehand. Um, People have this image of what they think people mean. I think it's really important to pay attention to the people in your life and understand what they mean God is, right? Because when I
Yeah,
say God, I don't necessarily mean your God. And and often you'll hear me say God, divine spirit, whatever you believe in, like when I'm talking to a general audience, because
right.
I don't know what your belief is, what your pattern is. And even I notice with like my family and these people that I interact with, we don't necessarily all have the same thoughts about what God is and
Yeah.
what spirit is, like I know people who call it spirit. I have a friend who says that she's not spiritual or religious, and she's literally the most spiritual person I know. It's so funny to me. But she's always like, no, don't say that about me. I'm just me. But she's very
Yes, I
spiritual.
feel that too.
She actually has spiritual practices that people are like, but though. And I'm like, just let her be. Like, that's how she wants to put it because she doesn't like the label. She grew up in a very religious environment. And
I
as
was
she
gonna
got
say
older,
she
she
probably
was
did it
like,
from
mm-mm.
trauma.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah. And she's like, nope, don't call me that. I don't have beliefs. But
Mhm.
she has beliefs and she believes in something bigger than her,
Mhm.
and but she refuses to even label as spirituality. And I think that it's important to know that you don't have to have a label, but for it you don't have to call it anything.
Yes.
It just is. Spirituality is just life. It's a part of life. It's how
Yes.
you live your life. It's how you
Yes.
experience life. It's how you treat others, you know?
That's it. That's it. So you can't have one without the other. You cannot have wellness without spirituality. You can't have spirituality without wellness. For
Exactly.
sure.
And you said something earlier, and I know Again, we're gonna get some pushback, but hey, we don't care over here.
We're talking.
We were talking about labels. This goes back to labels and
Mhm.
being a witch, because being a witch,
Oh yeah, we were talking about that earlier.
yes, means very different things. Like being a witch now means something different. It's just what we call it. When back in the day, way back in the day, being a witch, being pagan, it was just what you were called if you weren't religious, right?
Right.
But also being spiritual and being into believing like things like manifestation and believing that, in energy and just believing in just spirituality in general, that started at some point becoming your witch, right? And but if you think about it, from the beginning of time, before we had organized religion and people were just spiritual, people were just doing these things that are now labeled as being a witch.
Yeah, rituals. Um,
Hmm.
natural. A lot of the rituals that we claim as witchcraft, we were doing
Hmm.
way before like religion was colonized. You know what I'm saying? So
Exactly.
this was a part of like our culture. This is a part of what makes us us. But we have fallen so far back from rituals and different things because everything is a damn sin. Everything is gonna burn in hell if you do. And that is just what was brainwashed into us. I truly believe that.
And even and and even
Google
actual
Classic.
like witchcraft, like people who are Wiccan and people who are pagan, if you
Hmm.
pay attention to what they do, like you really pay attention, don't just look at the surface. Look at
Right.
what they really do, what they learn. They're just doing natural remedies. If you look at a lot of stuff that they do, a lot of what they're based in, and you go back and look at their ancestral lines, I bet you it's not far off from what they were doing, what their ancestors were doing. Because even when you think
Yes.
about herbalist, back in the day, herbalist, not Western, not in Western culture, right? Like not in the US, let's say, back in the day, those things that they were doing, some of it, especially those who were persecuted for being witches, they were just doing natural herbalism. And
Yes. And
now
it's
we're a witch and now
wow.
we're burning them because they cured someone with some herbs. Like
Mm-hmm.
what?
Mm-hmm. And that's what we
Or
would
it's
like to bring back into society now. You know what I'm saying? The natural remedies.
and just being part of nature and realizing that things are bigger than you are. Just everything
Yeah.
is like even how we interact with people. I always like to compare things. People, I know people probably are going to call me a nerd, but I don't care. If you think about like my example is Star Wars and you say the Force, right? Like we are energy is the force. The force is just energy. It's how we interact. When you think about how we interact and how we feel each other and how we feel things, everything you do has this energetic force, this energetic pull. How
Mm-hmm.
what do they say? The one affects the many. So everything that you do impacts everybody in society.
Yes.
Everything that you do to someone else, you're doing to yourself. But we don't think about it like that. And we think it's all separate. And we have this individual individualism individualistic thought.
Yes. That's
And we don't think about how it's not the big picture. Yes, we have to do things on an individual level, but we also have to do things on a collective level. It's both,
mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
you know? And that's how we get stuck in the boxing religion and boxing spirituality and
Oh, that's
thinking
so
that other
exhausting.
people are wrong, you know?
Yes. Everybody thinks the other religion is wrong. Like, come on now. We are all human beings. We are not going to all believe in the same damn thing. Sorry. And I think because of the field that I'm going into, wanting to practice therapy, I have to I have to know that everybody's not going to think the same. Everybody's not going to believe in the same thing. And that's okay. You know, it's okay to be different.
It's actually a blessing to be different because wouldn't it be so boring if we were all exactly the same?
It would be so boring. It would be so boring.
But also is just the not just the thought process of we all have different beliefs, but also what if we're all right? What if
I
everyone is
know.
right? What if every single person is right? How, like, what? How do we know that
Mhm.
we don't know who's right? We don't know who's wrong. So what if we're all right? What if we're all wrong?
Yes, and that could be a possibility. We don't freaking know.
Hmm.
We don't know.
Either both things can be true.
Yes, we just gonna have to know when we get there.
Exactly. And now we just need to live life authentically, which I think is the
Hmm.
hardest part.
It is.
And it's just that stepping out of that spiritual closet and saying, "Hey, I'm here."
Yes. Oh my gosh, it's so freeing. Yes.
So do you have any advice for people who are kind of still in the spiritual closet, so to speak, or afraid
Man,
to step out?
that's tough. Okay, what I would say is figure out, and this is not an easy task. Fair warning. Figure out who you are. Figure out who you are. Then go from there. Figure out who you are as a individual. Then figure out what religion I want to have a title. If you choose to have a title, you may not want one. That's okay. So figure out what you want, figure out who you are, then figure out what you want, and then go for it. And then also remember, if you do choose a label, just remember to give yourself grace. Give yourself grace. Give yourself grace. Learn to forgive yourself when you make mistakes. Don't hold on to your mistakes and your past. That will hinder you. Okay. I would say take it one moment at a time. I keep stressing that because that's so important. And that's pretty much it for that. Right on
Um,
time.
well, thank you again, Ashley, for joining us on this episode. And everybody, again, check out the show notes. All of Ashley's information will be there. Once she gets her book, once her book comes out, we'll update the show notes, put her books in there. And if you haven't signed up for the symposium, please do. That will also be in the show notes. And just know that Ashley will be one of our presenters at the symposium. So please check her out. Check her out on social, follow her, subscribe, check out her. I'm telling you, check out her food critics. She features the best restaurants. I'm telling you, the best places to eat. So check it out. She travels. She doesn't just do it in one place. So check her out 100%. And do you want to leave us with any last words before we sign off?
Yes. Believe in yourself. Okay. Remember that you are not perfect. Take things one day at a time and apply grace. You give grace to everybody else. Why not give grace to you? That's it.
Love it. I love it. Thank you again for joining us for another episode. Please subscribe so that you can keep up with us. Check us out on social. If you want to send us a message, send us a message. We love hearing from you. We love talking with you. And remember that true wellness isn't just about nourishing the body, it's about nourishing your mind, body, heart, and spirit. Keep your energy high, your spirit bright, and your soul nourished. Until next time, stay vibrant and stay well.